We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello, welcome to IB Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I have Crohn's disease, and I speak from the role of patient.
And I'm your host, Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I speak from the role of a caregiver.
Woo-hoo.
In today's episode,
It'll be a fun one.
Yeah, it's a little different because we've done a lot of cool episodes lately, and I kind of thought maybe it'd be fun to get to know Mason.
Yeah, me a little better.
Yeah. But what I did is I came up with some questions to ask Mason, and this will mostly be IBD related because that's what our podcast is about.
Yes.
And we'll kind of ask him some questions so you can hear from an actual teen patient more about their experience with this disease.
There's other questions.
Yeah. And so because, if anybody else has questions out there, you're always welcome to comment and ask questions yourselves. We're happy to answer them. But today, hopefully these are good questions that a lot of you might have.
That will intrigue you.
Yeah. So if you're a patient or if you're a caregiver or if you're just a friend with somebody who has this disease.
Or a supporter, which is what you just said.
It's all right. Yeah. Same thing. Yeah. Hopefully this may be interesting to you. So I think, one of the first questions we'll just start off with something fun before we get into the IBD. And the reason I think this is an important question is because music played a really big role in Mason's life when he was in the hospital.
Yeah.
He used to listen to music, and this was after for about the first 4 weeks you didn't, and it was because it was pretty tough.
Yeah.
But then
after that we kind of started listening to more music.
Yeah, and he really would enjoy that, so he'd have it on his iPad and he would listen to it there.
Another tab actually, which was gifted to us by a really nice friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a lot of really supportive people. We were very fortunate that Mason was cared about so much. Yes. And so just for fun, so what is your favorite band?
So I have a few.
Or what are you listening to right now?
Right now, I'm listening, one of my favorite bands currently is Shine Down and Imagine Dragons. So in the hospital, I listened to a really good song, and it was called Unforgettable. And it was created by a band called Godsmack. And I think this song was really good. It was a really interesting song because in the song, they actually have a video for it, and they have a bunch of I think they're high school students. Yeah, that are. And they all have them sing in a chorus different parts of the song.
Play musical instruments, and so a lot of kids are involved. It was a really cool music video for it. Yeah, so that was one of the ones that song really helped them get them through. And so now we always have because we go to the hospital a lot and we still visit, and we have about a 45-minute, depending on traffic, drive to there.
A bunch of different music songs and all bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So one thing I really want to say is a song that is really helpful through getting through tough times or flares or things like that. If you know the band Imagine Dragons, if you don't, look them up. But they have a song called Warriors. Mm-hmm. And it's a really good song. It's like rock mixed with an orchestra.
Yeah, we actually just did a short on YouTube
using it.
Using that song.
It's actually our most viewed video.
Yeah, I know.
It had 400.
It's a short. People apparently don't care to hear us talk for very long.
I know, we're boring. We're pretty boring.
Kidding. But the shorts are actually really good because it's just pictures from Mason's treatments. Nothing else, just him going to treatment.
And we also got a few subscribers.
We did. So welcome to our new subscribers. We hope we will do a good job and you'll keep listening. Yeah, I think it was something like that since the short was
posted. We have 57
yeah.
now. And
but also interesting fact with Imagine Dragons, the lead singer has ulcerative colitis.
And I have IBD. It's a type of
it's it's in the IBD. So same family here. And so
it's a really cool.
Once Mason found that out, it was wow. Cool. So it became entirely interesting in a different new way when you find those things out. Yeah. So now with that, we're going to kind of launch into some
more
IBD
fun
stuff.
topics,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
questions.
I don't think it's necessarily boring,
No,
hopefully.
it's not. Hopefully, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that this is actually of interest to you guys. And even if you have it and this is like you have your own answers to these or you have something similar to Mason's, I think it's just kind of like relatable and you'll feel like, oh yeah, yeah, I get that. I get that. So that's kind of something we hope to. Again, that feeling of camaraderie and you're not alone out there and hearing these. So the first question is, how did you feel when you were diagnosed with Crohn's disease?
It's a hard question to answer because you feel so many emotions at once. And when you're in the hospital, it doesn't seem real that you're in the hospital in the first place. And then you're diagnosed with a disease like we didn't know about what Crohn's disease was.
No.
But if you did know what it was, maybe you'd believe a little bit more. But when I heard I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, I didn't even know what it was. But I've never heard of this. How come I've never heard of this? Like,
Mhm.
is it very rare, or am I just like, am I a very rare person who has this, an unlucky person, or is this a disease I just haven't heard about? It and then hearing that it didn't have a cure is
Yeah.
obviously like, oh, okay, yeah. And so you feel kind of stressed because you don't know what the disease does, and you just don't know what the future has for you with this disease. And so
Mhm.
you just feel kind of stressed or nervous sometimes.
Yeah. And I think as a caregiver, a lot of us can relate to that too, because it's like, what does the future hold? And what is this
Yeah.
disease?
They
So,
say it can affect your entire body, your eyes, your ears.
yeah,
But
it's a
what does
lot of
that mean? Yeah, is
information.
there a way to stop it?
Yeah.
Or is there like only a way to slow it down,
So, like a lot of questions, right? So, when you were
Yeah.
diagnosed, like a lot of feeling.
There's more questions within this question.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's kind of that was the beginning. So, compared to that, how do you feel now about Crohn's disease?
I definitely feel better, especially I'm not in a flare, so I feel much more confident. I know what it can do. I know what it can cause. So it's not just confusing. It's not mystery. It's not the unknown. We know more about it, so
Yeah. A
it's
little more
not
experience with
stressful.
it.
Yeah, and the biologics we found biologics to treat it, and it wasn't like at the time, and we didn't know what to treat it with because you have to test and fail to try.
Yeah.
You don't know what to pinpoint, but now that we're on the correct medications and things like that, you definitely feel a lot more confident knowing that you got the disease under control.
It helps to see that you're growing finally, you're gaining weight,
Yeah.
your appetite is back.
And it
So,
motivates you to
yeah, because you probably feel a lot better
Yeah.
now versus then. And it's like,
Oh yeah,
you
and
know,
also I feel much like hungrier now, which is better because in a flare you don't really feel hungry. And when you're not hungry, you don't eat as much, and then you don't grow as much, and
yeah,
then it's kind of hard to pull out of the flare. But
it's a whole
yeah.
mess. It is. So, I mean, I think if so, it feels you have a little more experience now understanding the treatments,
Yes.
understanding all the appointments, and understanding what you need to tell your doctors. And I think it's just it's only been it'll be almost 4 years since your diagnosis
This
in
summer,
this June.
this
Yeah, this summer.
this June, summer break.
Yeah.
Taking my entire summer break.
Yeah, in the hospital the
But
entire
actually,
time.
that's kind of a good thing because if it wasn't for that, I miss a lot of school.
Yeah.
I'd be doing something.
The timing was yeah, the timing yeah, because I mean that they're working to get you healthy and in a place where you could go home and we could manage it. So, okay, another question. What is some of the best advice you've been given since being diagnosed?
It's hard to say.
Or you can say the worst if you feel like it.
See the best. Stay on biologics. Don't stress. Stress will cause more flares. Oh yeah, that's the thing when we're in the hospital and they say don't stress, and then they identify you with a heart condition that if you stress too much, it will blow up.
Yeah,
Like, oh yeah,
yeah.
I totally won't stress.
It's always easy when someone tells you not to stress. It's
Yeah,
almost like you do the exact opposite
yeah.
because you're like, whoa,
Wait,
oh gosh,
what?
now I'm stressed about trying
Now
not
I
to
should be
stress.
stressed because you're telling me not to stress about something. Probably some of like the worst advice is it's not really advice, but things like people say, "Oh, you'll grow out of it." That's not true. And then maybe things like biologics they're just like for the money. They're not really there for anything else, which obviously is helping me feel better and
Yeah.
if it didn't make me feel better, it'd be obvious and you could tell.
Right.
But I
Right.
think that's probably the bad advice. So I think the good advice. Oh yeah, take one wave at a time, obviously, from
Yeah,
friend.
that would be mine too.
Yes,
I
yeah.
think that
One
would
wave
be
at a
mine
time.
too.
Because when you take one wave at a time, you don't get as nervous. When you look at the bigger picture, it will usually make you realize everything that's going on, and you don't want that unless you like stress.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So it's best to take in everything one thing at a time. That way you're not looking at everything and it's all confusing or stressful.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I agree. I thought that was.
shout out to Rolf
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
Alpenerska
One of our
Friends of
favorite
Transportation.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
person.
That we're so lucky to know and have like taken into our family
Yeah.
too. It's pretty cool. And okay, next question. How do you feel about your medical team?
Obviously, in the beginning, when we were at the hospital, I did not like the medical team at all.
You were not
Like,
their biggest fan.
I don't want a blood transfusion.
But you were always so entertaining though, which was
Yeah.
funny. They loved to see you. You didn't like love to see
One thing
them.
we've never said is they'd come in and they'd give me like a blood, like they take some blood or something. I'd be hysterical. I'd be crying.
Yeah.
And then right about they're about to leave, I'm like, oh, you can take a piece of candy from the candy bag over there.
That's right.
Because we had a
That's
little candy
right.
bag and I'd let them take a piece when they'd leave. So I'd
Yeah.
be crying like, it hurts, it hurts. Oh, you can take a piece of candy right before you
He
leave.
would. He would be so upset and so stressed. And then as soon as they're done, he'd be like, well, thank you for that. And you can get some candy on your way out. And
Yes.
so they got a kick out of it because he was, even as upset and angry as he was
I still remember to say
still
it.
polite. He was still, and he was still thankful because like you knew, like
They were helping.
you didn't want them to do it.
Yeah,
but
you knew they were helping, but
right,
it just didn't feel like they were helping.
Yeah.
Obviously, now I feel a lot better about my medical team. They feel like family now. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
The fusion, you go there so often, you recognize everyone there. We saw them actually on Halloween. They're all dressed up. It was really fun.
Yeah.
You go to the hospital, you see the doctor a lot, you see the nurses a lot, you recognize them all. So obviously, I feel a lot more comfortable around them and happy, and trustworthy.
Yeah. And that question kind of leads
And I
me.
know they're actually helping me.
Yes. And so that question kind of leads me to when it's not on here, but I kind of thought of it as like, how do you feel too about like the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, like our local, like Iris and Cindy and Jack, like we've gotten to really know our local chapter. So how do how has that been for you?
I think they're really cool people, and it's an honor that they invite people like me to speak. And it's really cool to see what they do to help this disease and other things.
Yeah.
Help as much as they can because they can't really they aren't nurses, but they're doing other things that would be really necessary to help.
Yeah. They're a huge part of the reason why the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is such a success.
So it wasn't for them, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation wouldn't probably be as good. If it wasn't for them, all this great stuff wouldn't get set up to help raise awareness and get closer to finding a cure.
Yeah, because I mean, I think of our medical team, and then I think of the team, like the fundraising team, which is the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Oh, and it means a lot to have you call up on stage or mentioned or just be there in person and do speeches.
Yeah, which has been really, which I'll probably, I should have a question about that in here about that. But other question I wanted to ask too is, what appointment do you fear the most?
It's kind of funny. So
it hasn't always been the same because I think that's a good question.
It's kind of changed. So in the beginning, my most feared appointment was infusions.
Yep,
they're worse versions of shots. They stay in your arm and they're painful. I've gotten my fear over them.
You would lose sleep over those.
Yeah, I would because I remember every other week I'd be getting an infusion and I'd know it'd stay in my brain. I'd remember.
Yeah,
and I'd be stressed over.
Yeah.
I've gotten over my fear of IVs and I can really understand that they're helping me now because I can feel the difference and just face your fears. And I kind of don't feel the pain as much anymore. And the funniest part is the most painful part is when they pull it out.
Yeah,
Band-aids and things like that. My most feared appointment actually is MRIs because you have to clean out and then stuck in that really loud chamber.
Yeah.
That's kind of scares me, but I feel like the one I'm the most afraid of is as funny is the ophthalmologist.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
you said that. Yeah, you said that right. Yeah,
and because
ophthalmologist.
the thing that really scares me is
And
when
we
they,
like her just so you
yeah,
know,
oh
our
yeah,
doc
she's good, she's good.
yeah, she's
It's
it's
just that
not the
they,
doctor. Let's
no,
be
it's not
clear.
they do. It's
She's
the
super
machinery
cool.
there
Yeah, he
and
does
the
like
tests.
the tests.
So they have this little thing that goes like it's a really light little
Test your eye
thing. It
pressure,
takes your
I
eye
think.
pressure, so you can't blink, and they have to touch the eye.
And
And
Mason
it's
cannot
really
help but
trippy
blink.
because you can't blink, but you see this thing right next to your
It
eye.
shoots it out at your eye, and he's
Yeah,
like,
and your brain says
every
close your
time.
eye because there's something coming at your eye.
And they're
But
like,
they
keep
say
your eye
keep your
open.
eye open and don't stress because then your eye pressure is going to go up. So you
Yeah,
can't
it's
stress
like
and you have
blood
to keep your
pressure.
eye open and your brain's telling you to close your eye.
Yeah.
So
So
then after that they have to put the eye
they
dilation
dilate.
things
Yeah.
in, which I do not like because it makes everything blurry for a few hours,
Yeah.
which isn't fun.
Right. So yeah, so that's his like
Least
least
favorite.
favorite appointment, which is so funny how far you've
I
come.
think actually a good reason why it is my least favorite is because the infusion doesn't really have any long lasting effects after you leave, except for like a headache or a sore throat. But the eye one, you're sensitive to light, so you have to wear special glasses for a few hours and
Yeah.
it's blurry. So it's kind of like a long lasting effect
I
for a
mean,
few
let's be
hours.
honest. Well, I mean, you are being honest, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
let's be like really honest. So, what is one of your, well, this is a perfect interview question. What's one of your favorite things to play?
Oh, Roblox.
And when your eyes are dilated
You
and
can't play
you can't play
Roblox.
Roblox. So
You can't
that's
even see
where
the
the
screen.
he was so mad about
Oh,
the
remember that time where I was really picky and I pull things apart and be like, "Hey, the black spot here in a minute."
Yeah, you did. And all your
And then my
yeah.
eyes were blurry, and so I just ate everything because I couldn't see.
He could yeah, he
And
didn't
so
I was
I
like,
couldn't,
look at him. Wow, he didn't even pick apart
and I'm
anything.
like, I can't see
Yeah.
it, so I'm just gonna
This is a
eat
few
it.
years back. It was pretty funny. So, another question is, do you feel listened to with this disease, like your concerns or any worries you have? Do you feel listened to by like your medical team or just
Definitely.
people in general? Do you like I know with us
I
and
feel very listened to, obviously with you.
Mhm.
My medical team, I do feel listened to because if I have a concern, my doctor and my nurses will, they'll ask me questions. And if they say, well, do you have anything else you want to ask? They will listen to what I have to say and they will come up with an answer, whether it's good or it's honest or it's bad. You
Yeah.
don't want them. But they will give you an answer and they will listen to you. And I do feel listened to very much so when we go to the Crohn's Disease Foundation
Hmm.
and I'm able to raise awareness for Crohn's disease or any other disease if it could touch on that maybe. Because everyone in the audience, they listen to me and I definitely do feel listened to and have a voice.
And that's really
Meeting.
important for anyone listening too. If you are a child, if you're an adult and you don't feel like you are being heard or being listened to, maybe time for like a second opinion or talk to somebody else because you should be your concerns, anything you come in, you have questions about, it should be addressed. I know there's time frames doctors operate within. They can't sit there and just talk too long, but they should always make you feel like they have time to listen to your problems. Your problems should never be a waste of their time or less important than another patient.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
Second opinion if you don't feel listened to.
This just came to me. Like, do you have any advice if there's any kids listening out there that maybe have a hard time talking about this and they don't like to share? Do you have any advice for them and maybe helping them get over those fears of feeling like they don't want to tell anybody about anything or talk about it?
It's kind of like hard to give advice for that because I know everyone is different and I
Mhm.
just the kind of person who likes to speak out and I like to be heard. But I know there's people who don't really like to talk in front of big groups or in front of others about sensitive subjects like Crohn's disease and the issues with it. Um, there's therapy, I guess.
That's a good one.
Which is
Yeah, I
definitely if you
think
get
that's
a good
important.
therapist like Jeannie Foss, a great
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, his
Very good one.
therapist.
Doctors, they don't
Mhm.
really they won't judge you in any way. Your parents won't judge you. The doctors won't judge you because they deal with it every day.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
see images that I don't want to see, but
Yeah.
you know that was there, so you have to see it anyways. But doctors listen to you. The therapist will listen to you. Your parents will listen to you. Your family will listen to you.
It's important to find somebody who will listen And
just do what you're comfortable with.
right.
But it's always good to exceed comfort levels sometimes.
Right, kind of push yourself out of that box. And because I think
You won't be as scared.
it's important to respect a child if they don't want to talk about things, but it's also important to understand why, make sure there's not depression going on, make sure there's not other issues that they maybe don't want to talk about because they're scared to tell you about something health wise going on. But you're right, though. It's entirely up to how you feel, what you want to talk about. But I think that it's more of an issue if you're just, if a child's really being quiet and really not talking about anything. I think it's important to make sure you seek help for mental health and make sure that they're doing okay. So,
mental health can affect Crohn's disease or any disease.
It can. And so, kind of with that, what made you, well, we know why you chose to speak, but you can share that and at the first event, which is the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. But what made you want to continue speaking and sharing your story in that way?
I think because a lot of people who speak are adults and they have Crohn's disease. I want to raise awareness. And some of the best ways to raise awareness is hearing something from a kid.
Yeah.
It's a really heartfelt story. And and the scientists who are there or the donors who are there to donate money for a cure or blood donors, they can see who they're helping, the lives that they're affecting. And to see a kid up on a stage saying thank you, it can affect a lot more.
Right.
Adults are still definitely a big part of
Definitely.
it.
We need everyone to keep speaking out. But
it's also good to have kids up there
because a lot of kids don't.
Yeah.
I think you're rare in that sense where
because sometimes someone might think, well, a lot of adults have this disease, not many kids have it. But when they see a kid up there, they can say, well, also kids have this disease too.
Yeah.
And here's actually someone who has it.
Right. And I think the unique challenges a child has is something that should be spoken about. And I understand why. I think there's just a lot of things. A lot of people don't want to share their children's stories publicly. They may not want to put their kids in that position. And so there has to be a few out there, though, that are willing to do that and be kind of like that ambassador for other kids, because this disease can come off as like an adult disease because you don't hear a lot about the kids. And so, yeah, you're right.
Not to mention a kid who's on dual biologics.
Yeah, exactly. Something else unique with you too. But it's something that you really, and you enjoyed it. If you didn't like it, that would obviously not have been something you would have kept doing. But
because I liked it and I like having a voice in the community, we kept doing it and raised awareness.
Yep. And so you get to be a voice for a lot of the kids who maybe don't feel comfortable sharing. Yes. You get to be that person who goes up there and says, hey, I don't mind. And I will represent us and let everybody know what we're going through. So I think that's really
eye-opening.
Yeah. That's something I'm really proud of you for doing. And I think that hopefully in the future, maybe other kids may feel a little differently and some might feel comfortable to also speak up. So
more speakers who are kids. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it really would. It really would be neat. So, okay. So something else. Let's see. Another question. What is something you don't think people should say to someone with Crohn's?
You'll grow out of it is obviously something you shouldn't say. It can be changed by diet. Well, okay, here's the thing. It can be different for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's important to.
It could happen.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't see it happening. But you shouldn't tell someone something unless it's like eventually there'll be a cure and maybe optimism, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the best thing to do to someone with Crohn's disease, because it's not that heard about, is ask questions, because the person with Crohn's disease feels like you're actually interested in learning about it, and you're not just telling them something that you want them to hear. It's
so like you said, maybe instead of people saying something to you, they should ask you, and
they want to hear about it and they want to learn, and it sounds like they want to spend more time or ideas or things like that with you instead of just telling you something and being done with it.
You know? Yeah, because even I think this is really interesting with this disease. Even if you meet somebody else with Crohn's, you guys may not be similar in some of where that's located, what you're doing.
In the groups you're in, people will say, oh, well, this worked for my kid or my friend, and it will work for you.
Yeah. And someone else no, that will not. And so it's amazing how many responses you can see. One person ask one question about, what are you taking for joint pain? And it's
have a good example for that, because Crohn's disease is so different.
Yeah.
If someone was on Remicade
Mhm.
and it worked really well for their friend or them, they say, well, this worked really well for me, so it will work well for you. But it didn't work at all for me. Well, I mean, it might have worked a little bit, but
Yeah.
it didn't really help
No,
much.
it didn't.
So I'd be like, what if I was like, well, Entivio and Stellara are really good, and they're the only ones that will work. So
Yeah.
you should really try those. And they're on Remicade and they're doing fine.
Yeah.
And like,
So
but I'm doing fine, it's different for everyone.
that's
So
what is so interesting about this, because that's why one answer isn't going to like to tell somebody, oh, you have to do Remicade, because it's like
well, I'm
maybe,
working on this right now.
yeah. And it's like for you, it's like, well, already tried it, been through that. And so, yeah, there's not one right answer. And so, yeah, you should probably talk and ask some questions. Even if you have Crohn's disease, um, ask each other questions, find out. So that's what's really interesting. You can still learn more even with this disease. So can we. That's why we like to hear back and hear comments from you guys, because we know that you listening are going to have your own individual journey in this too. So I think it's fascinating to me, really, how different this can be. So another question, um, what do you think most people don't know or don't understand about Crohn's disease?
They don't understand, like we mentioned in the question before this one, it's different for everyone. Certain things will work and certain things won't.
Mhm.
Um, oh, here's the thing that some people don't understand, and it's that if I was to go off of Stellara and Entivia to try Remicade, well, that could be a bigger problem than just going to a flare because Remicade doesn't work. I could build up antibodies to Entivio and Stellara, and so when I go back on them because Remicade didn't work, they may not work again.
Yeah,
So
so
then I
just
won't.
switching things up is
Yeah,
got to be a big decision.
and so nothing might work
Yeah,
after that. So then you have to be treated with things like
steroids
steroids, which
and
are not good because they stunt
right.
your growth and they cause other health issues that are not good.
Yeah.
So that's something that people. Some
Yeah, I don't
don't
think a lot
know.
of people don't understand, like even people with this disease, like maybe they're taking for something for a couple months and they're like, oh, it's not really working. Should I switch? And sometimes that's why it's like, don't switch so quick. Give it a little more time to see if it works. Like listen to your doctor. If your doctor's saying switch right away, do it. But even maybe talk to the doctor, like, why are we giving it more time? Because when you're going through all these, you're eliminating essentially a lot you may never be able to go back on.
How
Um,
long did Entivio?
so Entyvio worked very quickly for you because you'd been on
Yeah,
Stelara
okay,
for
but
almost a
Stellara is
year.
the shot.
Yes,
Okay,
Stelara is an
how long
injection.
did
So
Stellara
Stelara is
take?
ustekinumab. And Stelara took about 10 months
Yeah, 10
to
months for it
like
to work.
right away it worked on your joint pain.
Yeah, it works right away on the joint pain,
Yes, which was like a
really good. Yeah.
miracle. That was the first, I think it was the first sign we were like,
Okay, that's good. That's
it's
good.
working.
Yeah, it's
There's
really good.
something like that was huge. And I remember that moment you picked up a golf club and you were able to do a full swing. And we were like,
Woohoo!
like it was
So
a
cool.
yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it was incredible.
And
And
then
so that
after
was
that,
like
nothing really happened.
it kind of took all the other symptoms kind of slowly. There are little
Yeah.
improvements,
And
little
then after 10 months,
improvements.
it kind of
It
just
kind of suddenly
went
started
good.
kicking in because you started sleeping through the night. That's how I remember. And then they put you on Entyvio and everything kind of just fell into place perfectly. So Entyvio can take a while to work too, but we didn't experience that because you were already on
Yeah, it was kind of
Stellara.
cooling up, and then we added the Kickstarter just to
Yeah.
send it. Oh.
So yeah.
Yes.
So that's yeah. So that's also interesting too.
Don't
And
skip any biologics.
yeah,
Unless, they're not going to work.
and I think that it's just important, like what a lot of people don't understand about this disease is that even people with the disease don't fully understand it as far as like I do as a caregiver for him and try to relay what he's going through to other people. But it's still sometimes it can be confusing. And so it's a lot. And it's why it's good to have a good medical team and have doctors you can ask questions. And I appreciate our doctors know we're always interested in learning and they're always
Yes.
willing to talk to us.
Yeah.
So, and also, so kind of related to this, but what is something you wish people knew more about, like how you feel in a flare? Like maybe they think like, well, you look
Yeah, you
fine.
look fine.
So you should be fine to just get up and run a mile right
Yeah.
now, right? Like you look fine. So what is something maybe you wish people understood when you are flaring, even if you still look okay?
When you're in a flare, side effects are different for everyone, but things that I feel when I'm in a flare is like I'm not hungry, so I don't want to eat, but at the same time you have to eat. So you
Yeah.
kind of and then you kind of feel tired That's another thing.
Hmm.
You have to go to the bathroom more, so it's hard to leave for long periods of time from your
Right.
home.
And you might be exhausted because of anemia,
Yeah, and
like the
anemia,
malnutrition
so
aspect of it,
you're tired too, which
and
isn't
blood
good. And you're
loss.
losing weight, which is also a problem. So you have to eat more when you're
Yeah.
not
And
hungry.
the pain is also really tough. These
Yeah.
guys can only take Tylenol. They can't take any NSAIDs. So they can't,
And then the joint pain.
yeah.
And there's also a chance, which I don't have, which I actually haven't had since 2020, which is
Knocking
really
on the
good.
table. Knocking on wood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the thing that I actually haven't felt is when I sneeze, my back doesn't go out, which is
Yeah.
really good
Yeah.
because that would
And even rashes, things
oh
like
yeah,
that. Some people
rashes.
will get, it's there's all different things. And so I think it's just important to know that when somebody can't.
Oh, and what's the thing when I was in a flare? The thing on your tongue.
Oh, like mouth ulcers, or
On
or
the
are you
tongue,
talking about
like the
thrush?
thrush.
You got
Yes,
thrush.
thrush.
I
So you
think,
can't taste food,
and that
that,
was, I think, a result of some of the medications they're
yeah,
using to treat the flare. So there's
yeah.
also side effects from these medications
Oh
when
yeah,
they
and there
treat
was a
the
funny thing. You're
flares.
not hungry, so you have to eat more. Well, you're not hungry, and
Mhm.
then you're losing weight, so you have to eat more. And then the thrush makes food not taste as good,
Yeah.
and so you're not hungry, and then food doesn't taste good.
So then you have to
So
treat the thrush, and you have
yeah,
to be careful because you can't. Antibiotics are difficult on these guys as well. So it's like, lucky
and if
there's
you're
a
already in a
mouthwash.
flare, yeah,
Yeah.
if
So
you're
I
already in a
mean,
flare, and bacteria is
it
just
gets
gonna boom.
complicated fast. So just
Yeah.
understand, like when these guys they're dealing
Like I
with a
said,
lot.
take one wave at a time. Take
Yeah,
one wave at a time.
it can get
It can
very
get
overwhelming.
very chaotic.
So like if someone says to you, "Hey, I'm not feeling well. I'm not able to come over, or for these reasons,"
Don't make them feel
push
bad.
the
No.
issue. Just be like,
Okay, I
"All
understand.
right,
I understand.
I understand," and again, ask maybe some questions, but
Like, is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything I can
yeah,
get
but
you?
never make someone feel bad or feel guilty, because it's really tough. I don't personally know, but I know from watching Mason. Oh, I have so much respect for all of you guys. And I just keep hoping other parents out there, other friends, family members really take it seriously and are kind and helpful and
Yes.
empathetic when someone is going through a flare. So that's okay. So that's I think that's a really good thing to talk about also. So you kind of already answered this, but I'll ask you again. How do you feel about getting so many injections and infusions?
Well, when you're new to a disease and you are already afraid of injections and
Which is a lot of
infusions.
kids and a
Yes.
lot of
Yes.
adults.
Here's the funny thing actually is a funny little story. When I was five or six,
5 or 6. Yeah.
I went to get a shot.
Yeah.
And the nurse said, "Okay, well that's good. So now you don't have to get a shot in like 5 years."
Yeah. So we won't see you again till you're like 11, 12 years old for your next set of
And if
shots.
I was like other kids, I'd be like, "Woohoo! I don't need shots for till I'm
Yeah.
11." I counted every single year
He did.
until I get
Every
into.
birthday, he would remind
I'm
me
like, no, it's 1 year
my
closer
shots
to the
are getting
shots.
closer. So he
Because
like,
I was not
yeah.
afraid of shots, and now I'm getting shots
You're,
every 2 weeks.
yeah.
And on top of that, I'm getting an infusion,
Yeah.
which is worse than a shot.
Yeah. That one is, I think, yes, for sure. And so I think a lot of kids listening right now might be just newly diagnosed, and they may be where you were, where they're like, I don't want an injection. I don't want an infusion. And
About like,
it gets better,
yeah,
right?
it
It
does. So
does
about
get
like, I
better.
don't know, for me, about year or I don't know, 8 months after the hospital, I kind
Mhm.
of started getting more used to it. I was still scared of them. Up until like, I don't know,
Yeah.
about 8 months ago, I stopped like screaming
Yeah.
for infusions.
Well, you slowly have calmed down, and even though you were upset, even over the past couple years, we would count. So
Yeah, we would
we just start counting, and we don't make, like, it's not like we count down the nurse, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
like, you
funny
got to
because
get the needle and be
the
ready.
nurses will be like, wait, because we'll start counting. I'm like, wait, am I going
Like,
on
am I going
three?
on 3? And it's
And I'm
like,
like, oh no,
no,
no, we're just counting
we're just counting to
first.
regulate
And you can do
him,
it whenever
and
you want.
that's our thing. We look at him, we keep him counting, keep him
Which I
breathing.
feel like is actually better than
Mhm.
like on three because you're gonna anticipate
Yep.
getting on three and you're like, it's coming, it's coming.
Right.
But when you don't know when they're gonna do it, you're like,
Yeah. So for
you're
you,
just
that works
following.
better. Yeah.
For me at least.
So
Yeah.
we just count, and it's crazy how well you do, and I don't you don't stress the night before. It's just kind of like, great. I mean, it's not like you look forward to it,
No.
but
There's always a reward of wherever you want to go for lunch.
we always do that.
Right after
We always do. We let him pick after his infusion whatever he wants. Like, all right, we'll
rewards.
go pick that up. And so it's kind of a fun
But
treat.
definitely in the beginning, when you're firstly diagnosed, the shots or infusions are going to be kind of painful and stressful if you're not already used to them. But after some time of
Mhm.
getting them, you're going to get used to them and it's going to get better. I think when they put it in, you feel it.
Mhm.
And you're like, oh, I can feel the tube or
Yeah, yeah, the
thing in there. You
catheter.
feel the
Mhm.
poke, and it can be kind of annoying for like 2 minutes, and then you start kind of getting used to it. Well, 2 minutes after they take the blood draw, because the blood draw can be pretty annoying depending. But then they put the salt water in, and you can
They do
kind
the
of feel it.
flush.
You can kind of feel it, but then you don't feel it as much. Um, I think something well, other than fact getting used to it. They give you a heat pad. Well, you can ask for a heat pad. They put it on the infusion, and you kind of think about the heat more than the IV. And then other good thing is think about something else other than the IV, because well, like playing a game.
Well, that's what's important. You get into a game or again, so your mind is immediately
The
focused
funny thing is, I remember when like I wasn't focused for like the first time, and I could actually like feel the fluids coming from the IV.
Yeah.
Don't think about that. Do not think about that because you're gonna feel that for like 30 minutes or 4 hours, depending on the IV. But
you were like hyper focused, and I think
just keep
now
your
you
mind on something else. You're gonna get lunch later. You're gonna play a game while you're getting the IV.
and like you said to feel better, you're gonna be this is helping.
For me, the worst part is when they take off the sticky things holding it on.
Yeah, and they try, so they put stuff all over it, like I don't know what they squeeze like the little alcohol or wipes all over it to unstick it.
Actually, taking off the bandage is kind of helpful. I just realized this because when they take it off, you're focusing on them taking the band-aids off. So when they take out the IV, you barely notice it. It feels really, really weird.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
And then they put a lot of pressure on it.
And then they put a lot of pressure on it.
Because we found out what happens.
Oh, yeah.
When they don't.
It was horrifying. It was absolutely
guys.
It was right after
FYI, if this ever happens to any of you, put pressure on. I mean, I'm not again, I don't want to give advice like a doctor or nurse. First thing you do is you get help immediately, okay? But in the meantime, you can put pressure on it.
Or else it's gonna bleed.
But they bleed out very fast. And because that happened, Mason had been in a procedure and he was coming out of anesthesia. And one of the nurses took out his IV and they put a band-aid, they put the band-aid on it.
It wasn't on tight enough.
And they didn't like wrap it like usually like they put the gauze on and they wrap it with
really hard
that material really tight.
It was just a mistake. It's not his fault.
No.
You got it.
But all of a sudden I noticed, I looked down and there was a lot of blood coming through, and then I looked down again and it's like running down his, like, I don't want to get too graphic for everyone here because
remember those kids watching.
Yeah, but it was my husband was running, yelling for help,
and he's the one that stayed because he would have fainted.
Yeah,
he almost fainted.
I almost did because he was like,
I was still kind of out.
Yeah,
but I was like,
going on?
I'm looking at it, I'm like,
yeah. And
so normal.
So I'm like trying to hold on, and I'm like, I'm feeling like I'm really dizzy right now. I was just like, oh my gosh.
But other than that, some effects after an infusion, which that's not a normal effect.
Nope, that is not normal. And that's only been after that was after the procedure. That was an infusion, but yeah. But anyways, normally
you get a little headache or a sore throat. That's for me at least. It's different for everyone. For the shot, I usually get like
a little
headache. And then for the IV, sometimes I'll get a headache or a sore throat.
Yeah. You used to get a little bit itchy legs.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I was like,
was that in the Entyvio or I can't remember.
I don't know.
But
it was IV. It was IV.
Yeah. So it was Entyvio. Yeah.
Oh, and the Benadryl will knock you out. Yes. And so when you're in the car,
pre-med for him. Yeah. We request pre-meds. And
so you'll be sleeping and you don't feel much when after you get out of the IV, and when you wake up, you're like, oh, I have a sore throat.
Yeah, he does. And then it goes, and so
and then it goes away.
we just kind of take it easy. And
Yeah.
but sometimes then you're like, sometimes you're bouncing off the walls, depending
Yeah.
on, and he's out there running around doing
That
stuff.
Scipio
And
is different.
yeah, so the Benadryl will knock you out
Yeah,
a
well.
little bit. So, also something, because this has to do with Crohn's disease and your treatments, but what is something you maybe wish people understood more about being immunosuppressed?
This one's interesting.
I mean, this could be a big question. You don't have to
can-
make it that big. You
Let's
can,
just make it kind of short, and
Mhm.
it's not gonna be long either way. But
Yeah.
I think something that people don't really understand about being immunosuppressed is they'll have a friend that has Crohn's disease and be like, oh, well, they're not that immunosuppressed. It's not that bad. They can go to the mall. They can go to Target. They can go to Disneyland. They can go to a restaurant. They can eat without their mask. But the thing that is different, and it's not just Crohn's disease. Well, I mean, it is Crohn's disease. That's being different. But it's actually the treatments that are causing you to be immunocompromised.
Yeah.
So I'm on 2. And one's already bad enough. And then you're on 2 that are
And at closer intervals than most people are.
Because usually people are on like 8 weeks on
Yeah.
one. And I'm on 2 every 4 weeks to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of things to make you immunocompromised. So you have to wear your mask everywhere. You have to be very careful with where you go. You can't go anywhere like every day. You have to be choosy with where you go. And one good thing that came out of COVID is curbside pickup.
Yeah.
Which if it wasn't
really
for that,
helpful.
we'd be going in Target a lot more.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think that's one of the things that is understood about it, is that you have to just be careful. Some people choose not to wear masks and choose to. And there's different levels of immunosuppression with this disease too. So that's why it will vary. It's gonna, so just I think the thing is for people to just be respectful of whatever boundaries you have. And I think that's what I wish more people understood, is just to be respectful about it, and
don't be mean to them for something they can't control.
Right. To just have that understanding, and to not say, well, I know somebody with Crohn's and they don't have to do this. And it's like, well, maybe their treatments are different. So maybe they really don't, or maybe they do, and you just don't see all the precautions they take. So it's a balance of just living your life, and also at the same time trying to be careful, because
with what you're doing,
yeah,
be sick.
And because with Mason, like you said too, we've mentioned this in other past episodes, because his treatments are closer together, it's better for him not to get sick in between, because that could impede him getting his next treatment, and he won't have much time in between to recover. So so we still live life and have a great time and do stuff.
You have fun.
But we have a lot of friends and family who completely understand. And if anyone is sick, if anybody is,
got to,
yeah, it's like we will not be able to hang out. And even his cousins are super cool about wearing masks when we have family get-togethers. They're totally fine with it. It's one more step to try to keep him safe, and it's not a huge ask. I don't think it's just a simple way to do it. But yeah, it's just, there's a balance. So yeah, I wish people just understood that they could be kinder and more understanding with it. So are there any questions that you think I should have asked that I haven't?
I don't think so.
Well, if any of you,
hang on. It's not a question, but it was something that I said in last podcast. I said I was going to show the viewers my proclamation, and I have the proclamation that I was going to show you. And this is what it looks like. A very official blue document with there's a lot of glare on it.
We have a lot of lights on us.
It says City of Vista and incorporated January 28th, 1963. Very cool. Oh, this is falling out. Oh, wait, no, this is not part of it. It's fine.
Oh, that was the agenda from the meeting. So that's pretty cool.
This is what's inside of it. Yeah. Very cool looking, of all the things that they said. I'm very echoed back here. It has all the signatures.
Want me to hold it for you so you can talk about it? Okay.
So it has all the signatures of the members from the proclamation, City of Vista Council. They have all the signatures of the people there. So very cool. There's a little video of it on
We have it on our
Our
Instagram
Instagram.
at Team
Yes.
IB Determined.
Team
If you want to watch the
Determined.
video of Mason, they show what part of the speech that the mayor gave and
Yeah.
read the proclamation. So
It was very cool.
yeah, which
So
is a
that's the
great
proclamation.
segue into following us on
On
Instagram,
Instagram.
because you'll see cool things like that and get to see videos and
our stories.
fun stories
Follow
of
us
that.
along our daily lives.
Yeah, so that is
and
yeah.
more things and proclamations. Oh my.
Yeah. And so that's Team IB Determined
Team IB Determined.
on Instagram. If there is anything that you're like, oh, I wish she would have asked him this, let us know.
Yes, let us know.
And yeah, tell us. And like I said, we'll be happy to put into another episode, because we could definitely do more questions. Yeah, share with us your questions.
Yes.
And if you have any caregiver questions, we can always do one of these in the future with me answering from the point of a caregiver, and we can do those too. But if you have any more questions for Mason that you thought, I wish she would have asked this, and
Just
even fun questions,
yeah, fun questions.
let us know.
What is your favorite type of dog?
Yeah.
Some things like that. What is your favorite food?
Yeah.
Pizza, Reggie.
Yeah, you're like surprised. So yeah, please feel free to let us know. So also you can follow us on Instagram at the Reggie Project, which, because speaking of Reggie, like you just mentioned,
it's perfect segue.
We're really hoping to get some more people to share pictures of them with Reggie and showing us what their life with IBD looks like, or with any chronic illness, and so we can share and help you raise awareness, especially if you are uncomfortable, like we kind of talked about earlier. Some kids aren't comfortable talking about this, so it's a way to have us share your story and get people to pay attention and have your own voice in a different way. And then you can also listen to us on any podcast station like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and even on YouTube.
If you are on YouTube, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a video, make sure to hit that bell icon.
On YouTube, you can watch us with, like, if you're watching us now, you can watch us talk about everything like on the podcast, you'll see it. Or if you prefer just to listen, like if you're working out and you just want to listen.
Actually, YouTube podcasts.
Yeah, you can listen that way too, or any other station. So it just depends. But I know for me, sometimes I like to see the podcast as well. So
it's more entertaining. You want to see beautiful faces.
That's why.
Yes.
That's why you should tune in.
And actually, if you were watching it, you could see the proclamation.
Yeah. So you can always listen, and maybe if you're like, oh, they talked about something I wanted to see, then you can tune in on YouTube.
Yes.
So either way.
Oh, and in the comments, you could maybe comment something like what you related to in the video, what brought you to this video, what brought you to the channel. If you're an original person with the channel.
Yeah, let us know how long you've been listening, maybe what your favorite episode is.
How ideas for a new video. Just saying hi. Or like on Instagram, you could say a question that you wanted her to ask me. Yeah, and we'll do it. Yes. So reading every single one of her comments, it's very, very cool to see all of them. Yeah, it is, because sometimes people will message separately, and it's like either way, we love to hear it. And it's really neat for me to suddenly hear from somebody say, oh, hey, yeah, we found you guys and we listened to your podcast. And it's like, oh, cool. Like, all right, well, how have we helped? You know, it's like, that's always a really cool feeling to find out. And if we did help. Yeah. With that, guys, we hope for us, it's a weekend that we're recording on. So we hope you guys, if you're listening, it's a weekend. Have a good weekend. If it's a weekend, have a good happy day or a work day, happy or podcast watching day. Yeah, whatever kind of day it is for you, we hope it's a good one. Yes. And we hope you enjoyed listening. And we hope you guys will tune in next week for the next episode. Yeah, we'll end it a little differently. Ooh, yeah. Okay. All right. We can do that. We can do that. We can do. It's our podcast. Yep. So, all right, guys. Well, we'll see you on the next episode. Bye. Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to play something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.